One of the many tools that Christians use to recruit uncomfortable conversations about God or keep themselves believing the absurdities of the Bible is faith. For this video, just know that when I say faith, I'm talking about belief in the supernatural without evidence. I'm going to present a few ideas to you that have no evidence to back them up, and you vote on whether you support that idea with faith or handle that idea with suspicion. A talking monkey born from a rock and causes mischief for the gods. Keep in mind, there are many people who have heard this story. The monkey is well documented in literature, and the story is very, very old, so old that it predates Christ by thousands of years. A talking snake, who is created from nothing and causes mischief for the gods, who are also the same god. Keep in mind, there are many people who have heard this story. The snake is well documented in literature, and the story is very, very old, so old that it predates Christ by thousands of years. Your Nigerian fortune. In a letter, you find out about a dead relative that you've never heard of before. No other reference material suggests that this relative ever existed. This letter assures you that the subject matter is legitimate, the author is sincere, and that if you just perform a small act of faith, a huge reward will be given to you. The bulk of the books in the New Testament. In a series of letters, you find out about a long-dead prophet that you've never heard of before, assuming this is your first time encountering Western culture. No other reference material of the time suggests that the man ever existed. These letters assure you that the subject matter is legitimate, the author is sincere, and that if you just perform a small act of faith, a huge reward will be given to you. Hercules, a historical figure who has only left behind a strong legend from an isolated geographic area. His father was a god, he performed many superhuman feats, and he has been to Hades and has escaped. Jesus, a historical figure who has only left behind a strong legend from an isolated geographic area. His father was God, he performed many superhuman feats, and he has been to hell and escaped. Unicorns, leprechauns, elves, fairies, Santa Claus, or many of the thousands of gods out there. All of these have extensive books written about them, in which many witnesses interacted with and can attest to the existence of these creatures. Their legends were fabricated a long time ago, and were first passed down through the generations through an oral tradition. All of them offer blessings to people who behave well, and punishments for those who misbehave. Most importantly, it is impossible to disprove their existence. Yahweh! He has extensive books written about him, in which many witnesses interacted with and can attest to the existence of this deity. His legend was fabricated a long time ago and was passed down through generations of oral tradition. He offers blessings to those who behave and punishments for people who misbehave. Most importantly, it is impossible to disprove his existence. I could do this all day, comparing tenets of Christianity that Christians will stake their eternal soul on to ideas so absurd that no one believes in them. So why do Christians decide to show faith when it comes to their Christian tenets while the rest of us show skepticism? Let's go back to that Nigerian banker. Now there are literally thousands of gods that have been put forth for public scrutiny. Not all of them can possibly be right, so where did these gods come from? Well, Christians can't very well say that all of them are valid, otherwise their Jesus is no longer the way, the truth, or the life. Obviously, these false religions and gods were made up. Ra, Osiris, Quetzalcoatl, Vishnu, and Zeus must have all been made up by some person or group of people. These stories obviously got out of hand because huge buildings were erected to support these made-up gods. People fought, killed, and died for these gods. But wait a second, isn't that the same thing that happened with Christianity? A very isolated group of people announce that there is a new god, the religion gets out of hand, huge buildings are erected for this god, and people fought, killed, and died for the causes of this god. Now why is this religion true, when the thousands of religions just like it are made-up lies? There is an established pattern of false religions we've got going on here, and Christians are arguing that even though they fit the pattern for fake religions, they are the real religion, which the other religions also claim, so this claim also fits the pattern. The heart of the Christian lie lies in the relationship between faith, suspicion, and apathy. Let's pretend you've never heard of Christianity before. If someone were to walk up to you and ask you to believe that there's a supernatural being unlike anything you've ever encountered and is so vast that you couldn't comprehend it, that you have a magical ghost inside you called a soul, that your ghost contains another invisible force called sin, and that your ghost will go to another metaphysical place called hell because of the sin that must be punished by the deity, you'd think that person is crazy. If the being is so vast and mysterious, what could this other person possibly know about it? Why would you believe in these invisible and intangible things called Yahweh, soul, sin, hell, or heaven, and the relationship that these new and arbitrary concepts have with each other? You'd only put faith in such a claim if faith was beneficial and the other two options weren't. Strangely enough, the meme of Christianity is cleverly built to survive and spread, and that's exactly what it does. Christianity knows how to deal with the various reactions you might have. Suspicion and apathy, we're told, result in torture, torment, and death. Sometimes the Christian faithful go even further to say that if you are apathetic or suspicious of their claims, that you are also rebellious, immoral, stupid, and ignorant. Faith, we're told, results in a beautiful relationship with an all-powerful father figure who will grant you paradise. The authors of Christianity knew what they were doing. They knew that they needed faith because that's their only hook. They knew that suspicion was the enemy that any common-sensed individual needed to overcome. So what did they do? They made faith the virtue that gets you into heaven, and suspicion and apathy the enemies that drag you into hell. By reinforcing your faith, you are a good Christian who will continue to be blessed. By denying your doubts, you are a good Christian who is no longer tempted by the evil devil's lies and deceits. By investing wholeheartedly into Christianity, you avoid being a lukewarm Christian that even Jesus despises. The inventors of Christianity made an ingenious framework that makes faith the exact point that the fate of your soul hinges upon. The best part is, no one can disprove it. That's why faith is a virtue in the Christian religion, because without it, everything falls apart. It's by faith you are saved, not because some deity thinks that you need to believe without proof, but because the people that invented Christianity know that faith has to be the unquestionable virtue, or else the rest will not be accepted. This is why Christians cling to faith so fervently. It's all they have. It's been drilled into them. They can't look at what they believe and see how silly it is because that carries consequences for them. They can't just accept what scientists and historians have to say about the world based on evidence, because that flies in the face of a contradictory story they heard that has no evidence, and that damages their faith. They can't handle criticism of their God because they have nothing to back up their claim but a really old story and some emotional experiences. So why do Christians have faith? It's because the meme of Christianity preys upon people's fears, manipulates people's hopes, and bends people's logic in a false framework of thought until the victim of the meme can't help but believe. Most of these Christians were converted before they were even 13. Christians have faith because they've been lied to.